There's nothing connecting atheists except our answer to the question, do you have a belief that a God or God exists? That is the only thing we all have in common. All right, welcome back to the party, everybody. This is Morty, and I am your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Everybody hit that like and subscribe. I promise I would do it for you, and let's party. So you guys know, if you've been here for a while, that although I am very respectful of Christian values, I am, in fact, an atheist. And that causes a lot of tumultuous conversation with some people who don't really understand what it is that I do and don't believe. So we have this video here from Genetically Modified Skeptic, who is going to break this down a little bit. And hopefully, especially for you Christians, hopefully you'll understand me a little bit better. And for those of you atheists out there, maybe you will be able to explain yourself a little bit better, because it can be very difficult to people who all they know is religion. Let's check it out. Big shout out to Melted Mind Media and Indie Film for getting the secret word in the last video. If you'd like your own shout out, just wait till the end of this video to get the secret word and put it in the comments below. Let's go.
Listen, I know the new atheist made it extremely cringe to say God isn't real, but if some religious type is using their belief in a God to justify attacking abortion or minority rights or whatever, it's okay. You get a pass then. Let's bring atheism back to YouTube. I'm gonna turn this ship around. We can all pretend to sip whiskey and talk about banana shapes again, like the old days.
This is the problem with what is seen as atheism, both within the atheist community and from the outside. That it's some battle, that it's some team that we're all on together. And it's not. The new atheist, this term, the new atheist, is something that has done a lot of damage to secular individuals who don't engage in this type of behavior or thinking. And it's extremely frustrating. So he's going to explain a little bit more about that.
The ship doesn't need turning around. We've turned it around. It's way better now.
Yep.
It's so odd to me when I hear people say that atheism needs to be brought back to YouTube, because it never actually left. It is different than it used to be, but it's still atheism and it's still here. That said, I do understand why Sean says that the new atheists made atheist talking points cringe. I'll get into that, but let me clarify something first. The term new atheism or new atheist is not a term that atheists invented for themselves. It was created by journalists to describe the movement of highly vocal atheists that arose alongside the popularity of Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens, Sam Harris, and Daniel Dennett in the mid to late 2000s.
And these are all people that for a long time, I looked up to all of them. And now, depending, a lot's happened. So a lot of opinions have changed both on my part and their part. But in the early 2000s, the mid 2000s to 2010s, these people were at the forefront of speaking out against what I believed at the time was the biggest problem in shutting down freedom as Americans. And I thought that was religious extremism. And especially having been brought up in the Catholic Church, that is something that spoke directly to me. And so in the same way that we have, like with the red pill space, you have people who, they know what's good. And then you have people who got to, rah, 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 I'm an alpha and you're this, and this is why modern women, blah, blah, blah. There's a difference. And then the new atheism title is similar to what we would refer to with the LGBT community now as like the alphabet mafia. So it's a little bit of a derogatory characterization.
The term has been used to disparage atheists at times by lumping all atheists together into an imagined monolithic cult-like group.
And you see that everywhere. Everyone who, so many people will say atheism is a religion. You have to believe as much to be an atheist. There's nothing connecting atheists except our answer to the question, do you have a belief that a God or God exists? That is the only thing we all have in common. The only thing. There may be many, 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 many things that overlap, but the only thing that every atheist has in common is that we do not have a belief in a God or gods. Our political leanings, how we treat other people, what we believe outside of that is all up to the individual and has nothing to do with atheism.
Who was it then that Sean and I think made atheist talking points cringe to so many people? I think this Twitter user got it right. Going through the responses to the original tweet, I get the feeling that many are confusing atheism and anti-theism.
Bingo!
I consider myself an atheist, and in my conversations with others about religion, I'm not trying to burn down their worldview, but rather help them understand mine.
Help them understand mine. That's what, for me, talking about atheism, talking about religion, has always about getting people to understand me and not trying to, as it says here, burn down anybody's worldview. I've said explicitly and many times that I'm not trying to take religion away from anyone. I'm not trying to take a religion away from anyone. All I'm trying to do is create a world where those who cannot believe, and yes, I said cannot, because I've tried. I've tried harder than you will ever know. And you can think I'm lying, but all I can do is tell you the truth. You will never understand how hard some people try to believe and just are not able to. And so we want a society where those people still have a moral framework to fit into, so that whether you believe in this or that or the other, we all have essentially the same goals on how we want to treat each other and how we want to live in society.
Yeah, when Sean and many others say new atheism, I think they're referring to anti-theism, a position that rose in popularity primarily due to the influence of Christopher Hitchens and Richard Dawkins.
Okay, well, I consider myself an anti-theist, even though I don't necessarily act upon it in the same way a lot of others would in the case of going on Twitter and looking for religious people to argue with. I do very much speak harshly about religion, but I kind of feel like there's a difference between going to other people who are religious and trying to tell them you are wrong versus me having the opinion that religion is a bad thing and saying that here on my own platform.
Anti-theism can be defined as opposition to theism and or the belief that theism or religion is inherently harmful.
Yep, that describes me perfectly. And so I think most people who think this way are going to be among the crowd of people who are going to be obnoxious and cringe. That doesn't change my opinion. I'm just not one of them. In the same way that you could be a New York Giants fan, and that doesn't mean that because some other New York Giants fan murdered somebody, that all Giants fans are murderers. I mean, it's just that simple. And if you can understand that, you will definitely find a home at the Indian Jesus Discord server where the party never ends. That is right, 24/7. We are in there hanging out. And after every single live stream, we go for an after panel where you are not stuck behind your keyboard, but you're actually on screen with me, cammed up, or if you don't want to, you don't have to cam up. We have awesome conversations. Come and check it out. It is a great time. See you there.
Most or all anti-theists are atheists, but not all atheists are anti-theists.
Right.
Many who don't identify as atheists don't distinguish between those two positions, though, so the reputation of atheism within our culture is tied to that of anti-theism.
Mm-hmm.
There are some understandable reasons that anti-theism has a poor reputation. In the mid-2010s, several anti-theists on social media, perhaps especially on YouTube, began producing anti-social justice warrior content.
So this is where the divergence between somebody like me, who is a secular individual, and when it comes to cultural issues, tending to lean to the right of the establishment narrative. The split comes from the people who are secular, who just go along with the rest of the crowd of what secular people are saying. So you have to separate the individual and their beliefs, and then whether or not they are acting upon their own beliefs and on their own will, or if they're acting in concert with that group. So there absolutely are people who are atheists who group themselves together and feel like they are part of a team. They're just wrong. It's not the same thing as Christians all being on the same team for this, that, and the other. You have an ideology. You have values and rules and traditions and all of these things that put you in this group. Atheism has none of that. It is simply the answer no to the question, do you believe in a God or gods? And then for myself, I take it a step further, and I believe not only that I don't have a belief in gods, but that religion itself is harmful to society. But it is a very nuanced position, especially if you come check out the live show every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. We get really in depth on the nuances of this. And I think it's very important to tease these out, because we we all want the same thing. We all want to live in a happy, healthy, safe society. And we can't do that if we are fighting each other, despite the fact that we do want the same thing.
While they often identified as liberals who just wanted to scrutinize bad ideas on the left, their audiences fed and some eventually merged with alt-right communities.
So what he is saying is that because I am somebody who is not down with the whole trans ideology, not down with everything is systemic racism, that I'm now alt-right. Now, all I'm trying to do is highlight differences between people that happen to be atheists. And I mean, being a social justice warrior and being called alt-right in the same group as atheists doesn't jive.
Turns out when you build an audience of young white men who are struggling with the loss of identity after leaving their parents' religion, then feed them reactionary content full of disparaging language against women, queer people, and people of color, you create right-wing extremists.
The issue is that with those same young men who don't have that value, if you tell them that the government has all the answers, then they'll become left-wing extremists. This is why, regardless of politics, we need a moral structure that is American, not Christian, but American. And it should very closely overlap with the moral framework that is Christianity. But as a country that we were built on Christian values. We are not a Christian country in the sense that you have to be Christian to be American. And as long as there are Americans who are not Christian, they are going to fall into the trap of the government has all the answers, because that's the highest authority that they know. Just because I'm an atheist doesn't mean that I don't believe in something higher. I'm just not going to put a name on it because I know that I don't know what it is. There's a lot of other atheists who just believe there's nothing. And this is, again, why it's very important to make these distinctions and not just lump all atheists together, because a lot of us are on your team. A lot of us are on your team. A lot of us are fighting just as hard, if not harder, and better, because we know the mindset. The hedonistic leftist atheists. It's not as simple as, oh, you're an atheist, so you think this. It's also not as simple as, oh, you're a Christian, so you think this. Even though that's a better indicator as to what you do actually think, it doesn't. Not all Christians are the same. And to an even greater degree, every atheist is going to be very different.
Yeah, it's definitely worse than just cringe. Even certain
I agree. Far leftists are worse than cringe.
anti-theists who didn't feed the alt-right added to the cringe, though. Anti-theists historically have been rather committed to essentialist ideas about religion. They might criticize bigoted religious systems like fundamentalist Christianity and Islam, then make statements against religion as a whole, speaking as if all religion boils down to the same essence of social intolerance informed by blind faith in scripture and scientific illiteracy informed by mythic literalism.
And so I can see the difference between if you are, in the Westboro Baptist Church and you are hateful and you are hiding behind your religion as a justification for that, and somebody who just lives peacefully, probably very similarly to the way I do, but with the added factor that you believe that this is God's will or whatever. There's a difference between those two people.
There is a logical progression that goes from believing in faith, having faith that your God tells you to do something, and doing terrible deeds like side bombing, like flying planes into skyscrapers. The vast majority of people of faith don't do such terrible things. But those people who do terrible things do it believing that they are righteous and good, and they think that they're doing the will of their God. So they're not evil people, they're actually good people by their own lights. They believe they're doing good things, and that's why religion is evil, because it can make you do evil things, believing that they are good.
Bingo! And that's where I have fallen on religion as a whole. Not the values, not that you should treat other people how you want to be treated. It's not that. It's the dogmatic aspect that this cannot be wrong, that I cannot be skeptical about this, that I cannot ask questions, or I shouldn't ask questions, that I should just follow it blindly. That is the part. And if you take religion away from people, and if people either never grow up with religion or fall out of religion, they're still going to want to adhere to something. And if we don't provide that structure, then they will just look to the government. We've seen it happen in real time very quickly over the last few years. 10 years ago, the atheist movement or whatever wasn't anything big, or we had to fight for representation because of how much Christianity was everywhere. But now, because those people align themselves with the establishment, with the government, with all of our institutions, that power has now been flipped. And it's not because of the atheism, it's because of the leftism. We have to be able to distinguish these, or we're not going to be able to solve the issue.
They might also support their position by arguing that false beliefs, like any of those based in religion, have the potential to poorly inform behavior.
Yup.
Poorly informed behavior can be harmful. Therefore, religious beliefs always carry an unacceptable risk of causing harm.
Bingo!
As a result of this essentialism, anti-theists earned a reputation for attacking any religious belief as if it was as detestable as fundamentalist extremism.
And this is why you got to realize that I am a step above, okay? I am not your average Joe. I am an anti-theist who has deep disrespect for the religion itself, but can identify that there is a lot of good values in the religion, and the people who follow the religion are not inherently bad or good. And all of these other, it goes all the way down. There's a lot of nuance here. This is a long conversation. But if you want to just say, oh, Christianity or bad, then, I mean, I can't talk to you. I can't talk to you. Luckily, with a name like the Indian Jesus, the people who are that dense and are not going to listen to me because of a name, which is partly why I chose it, those people aren't here. So if you're watching this as a Christian, shout out to you. Maybe you don't care about the name, maybe you do, but either way, shout out to you for having at least enough of an open mind to see what I have to say. Because too many people will just tune me out, even though I have the answers to how to fix discourse in this country. They will tune me out because of my name, or because I'm an atheist, or because of some other stupid thing. So shout out to you.
After several years of Hitchens and Dawkins fans scolding peaceful religious moderates for the yet-to-be-seen predations of their beliefs, anti-theism and so-called new atheism came to be seen as incredibly cringe.
And I'm not going to front here. I was definitely one of those people for a period of time. But just like how we talk in red pill rage, where there's a period when you first are realizing, oh, the idea I had about what reality is has been shattered. And I'm angry about that. We all go through our militant atheist phase, but because you only see atheists in there, you identify themselves as atheists in that militant phase, then you have an idea that all atheists are exactly that. And that's just not the case. That's just not the case. And the sooner you learn that, the sooner you learn how many of us are actually on your side, the sooner we can do away with leftism.
And don't get me wrong, there are people who identify as anti-theists who are more religiously literate and less needlessly combative than those I've just described.
I'm telling you, I may not be one of a kind, but I am definitely somebody you want to pay attention to.
They just, unfortunately, do not appear to be the majority. If you've been following my channel for several years now, you know that I actually started out on YouTube as an anti-theist. I used to think that it was both possible and preferable that all religion be abandoned, and I relied on the argument I mentioned earlier, that religious beliefs always carry an unacceptable risk of causing harm because they are wrong. By 2020, I changed my mind about that.
So I still believe that it is the case, like I said earlier, that we would be better off without religion. I just don't think that taking religion away from people is the answer. I just want to provide the circumstances that we need for religion to just die out on its own.
A polytheist friend, Ocean Keltoy, helped me see that even true beliefs could be misapplied and poorly informed behavior. And
which is exactly why we want to stick with the beliefs that we know are true, or at least have reason to believe, and not have faith in things blindly.
That if I was as committed to empiricism in these matters as I claimed, I should be able to demonstrate how harm arises from every seemingly innocuous religious belief, which I claimed was harmful. I could not do that. I also read The Righteous Mind by Jonathan Haidt, which persuaded me that religion can definitely cause harm, but can also promote healthy pro-social behavior.
Exactly. And this is why over and over and over I will talk about this moral structure that does not include the belief in the truth claims, but virtually everything else about Christian values can be applied. We slap the name American values, and now we're all on the same page. It's so simple. It's so simple. I don't understand why more people don't do it. So definitely go check out the rest of Genetically Modified Skeptic's video if you want to hear more about exactly what he was talking about. But I wanted to just highlight that difference between, we talk a lot about the difference between atheism and agnosticism, but atheism and anti-theism and how all these things are interconnected, but they are very different. And for each individual, you know nothing about that person except their answer to the question, do you believe in a God or gods? So let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Once again, this is Morty, and I have been your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Special treat for you for making it to the end of the video. You can get a shout out in the next video by putting the secret word in the comments. The secret word for this video is going to be God. Put God in the comments and you can get a shout out in the very next video. Until then, guys, we are out of here. Peace.